Hello, and welcome to week 9 of Ari on TV. I'm Miss Jess. This month, our theme is stillness. Maybe you're excited about this theme because your winter holidays are busy, busy, busy. But maybe in this time of coronavirus restrictions, you're tired of being still. Either way, I promise that this month has something for you. As Unitarian Universalists, our faith reminds us that the winter holidays are a time for beauty, peace, and stillness. Our culture has turned it into a time of commercialism, debt, and stress. It takes an effort to step away from the media messages that buying things and busily planning events will make us happy. So, what's one of the ways our faith guides us into becoming a people of stillness? It tells us step away from the busyness. And that is just what we're going to do in this week's episode of RE on TV. But first, welcome into this quiet place of beauty. We come from busy things. Pausing for a moment for the thoughts that quiet brings.
We light this chalice for the warmth of love, the light of truth, and the energy of action.
I'm sure you know what this is, right? It's a plug. There are plugs on toasters, vacuum cleaners, lights, computers, TVs, power tools, lots of things. Just like we plug in for power and unplug for safety and a rest, it's important to unplug ourselves from busyness at this holiday season. Hey, can you stop that for a minute? Phew, that's kind of what the culture of buying things and holiday business sounds like, doesn't it? Unplugging from busyness helps us remember important things about the December winter holidays. The theme for this month is stillness. By unplugging from busyness, we can notice the stillness and beauty around us this month. There's a book called Unplug the Christmas Machine. What do you suppose a Christmas machine is? A bulldozer for feelings? A fence post tightener which tightens everyone's stress? Maybe a loudspeaker which blares Christmas music too loud? What kind of machine can you think of that would be called a Christmas machine? The Christmas machine isn't a real machine. It's a metaphor for all those things that have changed a celebration of stillness, peace, and beauty into a time of commercialism and stress. But the book doesn't just describe all that busyness, it offers an antidote too. It's called The Christmas Pledge, and it goes like this. Believing in the true spirit of Christmas, I commit myself to remember those people who truly need my gifts, express my love in more direct ways than gifts, examine my holiday activities in the light of my deepest values, be a peacemaker within my circle of family and friends, rededicate myself to my spiritual growth.
Quiet moment, quiet me, quiet in the midst of all I see, a swirling, changing world, but I am still. Quiet moment, quiet me, quiet in the midst of all I see, a swirling, changing world. For now, I still. So, is it easy or difficult to be still?
Difficult.
It's difficult. Why?
Because you have to breathe, and if you breathe, your tummy moves up and down.
So we're always moving, even if we're sitting still. Some part of us is always moving. Mm-hmm. That's a good point. Is it challenging to meditate, or is it easy?
I think it's.
This is being still.
That's very still. Do you blink when you be still? Not even blinking. There are some things your body has to do no matter how still you get. Your heart will beat. Boom, boom, boom. Your eyes will blink. Keep your eyes wet. Your blood will pump around. You'll breathe. But you can calm down so that your breath and your heartbeat are part of your experience of being still. Listening for your breath. And seeing if you can perceive the beat of your heart.
What about being still without you breathing? Like this.
But then we have to move again, don't we? I have a question. What part of the day feels the most still to you?
Time to be still.
Midnight?
Because everyone's sleeping.
That's what I think too, except for nocturnal creatures, right?
Yeah.
So there is always some movement. So midnight is the time of the day that feels the stillest, even though there's still some movement of quiet nocturnal creatures. You know what I think of, Jacob?
No.
I often think of the year as being like a day. I think of the spring as being the morning when everything's coming awake. And then summer is like noon when everything's in high energy. And then fall is the evening.
Everything's starting to slow down.
Right. And the winter
is the night.
And that's the time when it's most still. And then maybe snow might fall and it feels even stiller.
And colder.
Quiet moment, quiet me, quiet in the midst of all I see, a swirling, changing world, but I am still.
Have you ever gone outside just after a big snowfall? Did you notice the quiet that snow seems to give the landscape? It's almost magical, isn't it? I have a story to share with you about a man who loved snow so much, he devoted all his spare time to it.
It's magical. You look out the window and you see those first snowflakes start to fall, and you can't help but get a little excited that, is this going to be a big storm? And
depending on the weather, the temperature, humidity, everything you want to take into consideration with it. It's not supposed to be any two alike.
In a time before computers, digital cameras, and even electricity, 10-year-old Wilson Bentley had a dream: to capture the beauty of a snow crystal.
Always, from the very beginning, it was the snowflakes that fascinated me most. The farm folks up in this country dread the winter, but I was supremely happy.
Oh, I think the whole thing is incredibly strange and special. The idea of this guy running around chasing snowflakes and making these negatives of them, it's just astonishing. It's so obsessive and passionate, and to make it then a life's work. It's a great story.
Bentley was born on February 9th, 1865, in Jericho, Vermont. His father was a farmer, and his mother was a teacher.
His mother had an old microscope that she used in her school teaching. So Bentley sat out in a shed in the back of the house, using the old microscope and looking at snow crystals. He did this again and again and again.
Bentley was a lover of nature, and he was infatuated with the symmetry of the snowflake. There was hexagonal beauty in the structures themselves.
I became possessed with a great desire to show people this wonderful loveliness.
He decided he had to get a camera.
This is the actual piece that he purchased. It's a bellows camera. The rest of it he had to adapt for the camera and then add the microscope onto it. One of the problems he had was that the microscope was in the front, and he had a view the snowflake from behind, and he was unable to reach and focus. So what he did, he designed this pulley system with a string and some wooden wheels, and he attached it to the fine focus of the microscope so that when he was behind the camera, looking through it, he'd be able to focus the microscope to get a clear picture of the snowflake.
Yeah, at the time, photography was probably only 20 years old, and most of it was portrait photography. So to interface the camera with the microscope was a rather unique thing.
The actual making of these photographs couldn't have been more difficult, could not have been harder. So you've got this guy chasing around in some field with this piece of black velvet, catching the thing on, catching a little snowflake on the piece of black velvet, and then he's manipulating it with a feather.
They had chickens in their chicken coop, and he would get a feather. There's always feathers, he was feathers all over the place. He picked up a feather, and with that feather, he could move that snowflake around to get just the ones that he wanted and push away the others.
He'd bring it back in the shed, and he'd very carefully look at it, pick it up very gently, and put it on the microscope slide. Then he would put that in front of the camera and point the camera out into the storm so you get in the flight. He worked with transmitted light. He had no electricity, so he had to use the light, natural light that he was able to get. It would take him anywhere from maybe 20 seconds to maybe 2 minutes for the exposure. But that's how we got it.
On January 15, 1885, Wilson Bentley took the very first photograph of a snow crystal.
The day that I developed the first negative made by this method, I felt like falling on my knees beside that apparatus and worshiping it. I knew then that what I had dreamed of doing was possible. It was the greatest moment of my life.
They are beautiful photographs, first and foremost. And I think that that's the product of this sort of single-minded vision, just to get it right, to make them look handsome.
This was his obsession for the rest of his life. I think you could compare it to the Holy Grail. He was searching for that most magnificent of all snow crystals.
Oh, for 1,000 hands, 1,000 cameras to preserve more of this exquisite beauty, so lavishly scattered over the earth.
Bentley was motivated from within and not from his family who kind of looked down their nose at what he was doing.
His father and brother never appreciated what he did, and they thought it was an absolute waste of time.
There's always work to do on the farm, and he's out there taking pictures of stupid snowflakes.
In spite of a lack of understanding and support, Bentley went on to take over 5,000 photographs of snowflakes.
Well, it's remarkable that he was able to photograph as many photographs as he did in a relatively short period of time. I think on some days he was able to photograph more than 50 snow crystals in a single day or a single snowstorm.
I think he was just looking at them, just really getting off on the total weirdness and beauty and specialness of them.
It's not the same kind of world that we had in those days. I don't think people would want to spend that amount of time. They don't have time for this, time for that. I got to do this. I got an appointment here. No way.
In the fall of 1931, after years of effort, Bentley finally convinced a publisher to print a complete collection of his snow crystal images.
2 days after Thanksgiving, 3 copies of his book arrived in the mail. And I had to believe he was just overjoyed at that. However, he did not have too much time to enjoy it. A week or so later, I believe he was coming back from Jericho, and I've been told it was pretty cold out and pretty wet and some snow down on the ground, and he got pneumonia. They had a nurse come in, but it was too late. He was getting sicker and sicker, and 2 days before Christmas, 1931, he died.
When he died, I felt badly about it because I just knew that we had lost somebody that was far ahead of everybody else in this particular science.
By and large, I think most people don't realize who Bentley was. And yet, most of the time when you see an image of a snowflake, it's either the actual image that Bentley took or photographed, or it's an artist's reconstruction of that snowflake.
I think he is very happy that so many are beginning to appreciate what he had been doing. Really. I hope he is, but I have an idea.
Our special guest this week is Max, and he's here to teach us how to make our very own snowflakes. Check out our virtual learning lab and our weekly newsletter to learn more about snowflakes and even try your hand at making chalice snowflakes if you'd like. Max?
Today we're going to show you how to make paper snowflakes. You'll need a piece of paper and some scissors. That's it.
So if your paper is shaped like a rectangle, like ours is, the first thing you're going to need to do is turn it into a square. So you do that, put your paper down on the table, take a corner from the short side of your paper, and fold it over so that the edges of your paper line up nice and neat. Okay, and then you're going to fold back. You see it makes a nice straight line here. You're going to use your scissors to cut off that extra bit of paper. Just follow that straight line. You should end up with a nice triangle like this. If you open your paper back up, you can see it's a square. If you already have a square piece of paper, go ahead and fold one corner down to make a nice big triangle like that. So I want you to hold your triangle so that it's open at the bottom. And then you're going to take that point and put it down on the table so the point faces right towards you. So take the right side of your triangle and fold it over so that it matches up to the corner on the left side. Fold that. Now we have another triangle. You see it's open on one side. You're going to take that open side and turn it so that it comes over to the right. Okay, so you have the open side here and the triangle's pointed toward you. The next step is a little bit tricky, but I know you can do it. You're going to take your triangle and you're going to fold it into thirds. Okay, keeping this triangle that's pointed toward you as your point. Okay, so you're going to fold one side over, fold the other side over. And when you're done, you're going to crease it nice and tight. When you're done, it should look like this. And if you turn it over, you can see we have a nice straight line here. So you're going to go ahead and take your scissors and cut right along that straight line. So you have a little cone triangle shape. Yep, you got it. Go ahead and just cut it. Perfect. Now, this little triangle cone shape is what you're going to make into your snowflake. So you're going to take your scissors. God, you can start. You're going to take your scissors and start cutting shapes out of your triangle. You want to make sure to leave some of the folded part along the edges, otherwise your snowflake will fall apart. So when you're doing your cutting, make sure that you're leaving some of the folds on your triangle. Okay, so you just make some shapes big, some shapes small. You can do some that are round, some that are pointed. And you want to make sure you do all three sides of your triangle. And if you want a hole in the middle, you want to make sure you cut that tip of your triangle. So when you're finished, you'll end up with something that looks like this. Okay? And then you're going to slowly unfold your triangle and see what kind of snowflake you made. Flatten it out, and there's your snowflake.
that's it for our show this week. Can you say the words with me for extinguishing the chalice? We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. I don't know if winter will bring snow where you live this year, but I do know that stillness can be found in nature if you take the time to look. Until next week, blessed be, my loves.